Good day, my name is Brian Amos. I'm a resident of Oliver, BC. I was born here, my mother was born here, and my grandparents came here in 1922, 1923 and opened the first drugstore here in Oliver. So I'm a local resident and I have a lot of history around here with the people. I was sitting around with a friend of mine, Norm Eady. Norm's a Nelson boy who spent the majority of his life in telecommunications, TELUS, Northern Telecom, that type of thing. And the subject of the national park came up. But we just started looking around and looking for the information, and we got a lot of generic stuff, but like there was no meat and potatoes as to what was going on. So we went to the internet and we started bringing down documents to try and find out what was going on. Now I have to tell you that there is such a thing as a national park that is governed by Parks Canada through the federal government. But what we are discussing here is a national park reserve. They are not the same. National park, Parks Canada rules everything. A national park reserve is a negotiated settlement of interested parties for federal lands, and they call it a park, a national park reserve. So it's just not the federal government and the national parks. So we went digging in the internet and we came up with 4 documents that when we read them and we digested them, we felt that the public needed this information. Everything I'm going to talk about today on this video comes from these 4 documents, and I'll release them to you now. We have the federal government for a couple of pages. We have the Silex First Nations. They have a study that's been done. We have a feasibility study. This is the nuts and bolts, the dollars and cents of what they're predicting. And we have a recommendation from 26 biologists and ecologists as to what they want to see in a national park reserve. So everything you get from us will be these 4 documents, and that's where I come from. So to move this on, this over here is the South Okanagan. This is what we are talking about. Down here we have Osoyoos. We come up to Oliver, OK Falls, Penticton, come down to Colin, come around the loop past Yellow Lake, down through Olalla to Karamias. We have Coston. We come down the Similkameen River, and we come up and over the hump here on the Richter Pass back to Osoyoos. So this is the South Okanagan as we know it. Noting down the middle here, we have provincial parks that come down here. This is the area that's highlighted in the green. So we already have a large number of parks in the Okanagan, but these parks are provincial. You can go there, anybody can go there, they can hike, they can ride a horse, you can hunt, you can fish, you can do all these types of things. But the provincial government does call it a park, and if they decide to close it or do something, they do have that right to do, but it is open to the residents. So that comes right down the middle. This is a provincial map, and as you can see in yellow here, all this yellow area, that's fee simple land. That's lands that are owned by people. They have the property rights to it. So you can see them. So this is a provincial map. That's it in general. Now, I'm going to lift it up and I'm going to talk about the documents. In the documents, I will start with the federal government and what they envision. Federal government envisions approximately this area here, and over into Snowy Mountain. That's what they envision, this area right here. This is sort of what they envision that they would like to see as a park. This is on the table. Then if we go to the Silex, their feasibility study, and it's a want list and it's a negotiated settlement, they see Snowy Mountain, they see this area here that comes up like that, goes up and down right here. But also in their document, they want Yellow Lake, they want all the lands around Vassal Lake. They feel that they should have control over the lambing grounds, McIntyre Bluff, all this type of thing. And also extending beyond Yellow Lake, they are looking for Giant's Head in Summerland, and they are also looking at Rattlesnake Island, which is directly across from Peachland in Okanagan Lake, right next to the Okanagan Provincial Park. But that doesn't concern us at this moment. So what we're talking about again, Penticton up here, Osoyoos down here. So, to reiterate, Down the middle here, we have provincial parks already. All this dark green surrounded here, these are all provincial parks. This area around through here, this is all fee simple lands. It's owned by people for various different reasons, but if you look at that, there's probably 50% or more of the area that they're putting into the park or want to put in the park that's on the table belongs to people. It's fee simple land. So we'll talk about the fee simple land first of all. If you own a piece of property inside a park, you're governed by federal government, not provincial statute. You're governed. So they can't take your land away from you, but they can restrict you, which is what they do. They give you access to your property. That's a road in. You have your property, and that's where your rights stop. You do not have the right to access the rest of the park because you live inside the park. Okay? So now you're inside this park. If you own a piece of property, you've got 10 acres. And I'm going to say you got Tessie the cow and old Buster the dog. Now, if Tessie the cow pulls out her pin because you've got her staked out down in the bottom end of your 10 acres on the grass, and she goes across the street into the park, you're now in park, she's now in park. So a ranger comes along, a number of things can happen. If that person is very nice, they might bring Tessie back. Or they can haul Tessie away. You may never see her again, and they could issue you up like a $10,000 fine. That's my belief is where it is. You have to look that up in Parks Canada. So that can happen to Tessie. Now we got old Bowser the dog. Chipmunk runs down the driveway. Bowser's right behind him chasing him, right across the road into the park. Park ranger comes along. What's going to happen? Speculation. You could hear bang and Buster's gone, or they're going to try and catch Buster, and if Buster comes running back up the driveway, they're going to get him. They may take him away because he has been chasing wildlife. That is like almost, it's a criminal offense in their eyes. He's just doing what dogs do. No great offense. I've never seen a dog catch a chipmunk, but that's the reality of it. Now, if you're living in this area, you have your 10 acres, and if you're a family man and a family woman, I'm going to say you have 2 kids, so you got mom, dad, and 2 kids, and you like the country. So mom and dad decide they're going to go buy some horses. They buy 4 horses and 2 pack horses. So they got 6 horses. What they like to do whenever the weather is good, Friday at noon, dad comes home, mom comes home, they saddle up, throw some food in some panniers, tent, and they go off into this area right up here, I'll say. They come in from Willowbrook over here. And they camp Friday night, and then they move Saturday, they camp, and they come over here towards Taylor Lake right here. And they camp there, and then Sunday they go home. This becomes a national park. You will not be doing this because you need permits, you need access rights, and that will be in the control of Parks Canada and the other parties that have negotiated. It could be the Silex Nation, it could be something to do with the Biologists. So, we're looking at this area here. So that's, how do we use it? We're not going to be allowed in there as people. We'll have to go in with permits and different things. Now, at the present time, we have Yellow Lake up here. We got Twin Lakes. We have Taylor Lake. Down here, we have Sawmill Lake, Madden's Lake, and Ripley Lake. And at the very bottom, we have Kilpoola. Now, these are stocked lakes. This is where you take your grandchildren or your children to catch a pan fry. You know, the old fishing rod, bobber, worm, go catch a fish, everybody happy. There's a lot of memories involved. That's gone because you cannot stock lakes in a federal park. So technically, we just lost 6 or 7 lakes through here where we go and fish. As you drive by Yellow Lake by the highway up here, you think of how many times you might have driven by that area and you've seen all the people fishing there. Well, that's a stocked lake. If that's in the park, that's gone. That no longer happens. So that's sort of where we're looking at for inside based on federal government and the Salish Nation. And this is studies, and I have to reiterate, this is on the table. This is not written in stone. This is in the documents that we will offer to you. So this leads us on to another, well, the last one, the 26 Biologists and Ecologists. Total change. To reiterate, federal government, Snowy Mountain, in this area here. Silex Nation, Snowy Mountain, up into here like this. but in the Silex study, they want Yellow Lake, they want Giant's Head, they want Rattlesnake Island, they want all this area in here. They also want this area right here, which is around Vassal Lake, the sanctuary, up in here, McIntyre Bluff, the lambing grounds, and a number of other things. And a reminder, this is already provincial park coming down here, and all the yellowy lime green sort of color is fee simple lands. That fee simple lands is owned by people. Now, the biologist wants to see this included in the park. This is the east side of the Okanagan Valley. This is the west side. So if this happens, we now have a strip of land from the Canada-US border, approximately 2 kilometers wide, all the way up basically to Penticton. Down here at the bottom, we have a large border station crossing, because this is one of the principal crossovers for US truckers headed north to Alaska, and it was revamped about 10 years ago to accommodate them. So this is what we're talking about. So the first thing we want to talk about is agriculture. We have farms all down here. We have vineyards. We have market gardens down here. We're only 2 kilometers wide. Parks Canada, in their rules, I have heard them referred to as draconian from people in Banff. So now we're down here, and some grape grower decides to spray at 3 o'clock in the morning, which they do because that's the calmest. And somebody's got a couch grass patch over here in the park that is just, this is the only type of couch grass in this area, so we have to preserve it. But I don't like the sprays you're using. They can put pressure on you like you can't believe. We're talking federal government here. And I've had conversations where they say, well, they say they're not going to do it. Well, every time you change management of this park, which I'm going to say is a 5-year turnaround, you bring in a new manager, they like to rewrite the rule book. They can change the rules on you at any time. So they actually control areas outside the parks like drift because, oh, we don't want that. So they have a tremendous influence. You also have water coming down off this mountain into the Okanagan Valley. There are water rights. What's going to happen there? These are all unknowns. So now we've discussed that, okay? So let's talk transportation. They are talking, we've got the good old Highway 97 that comes up here. This is the good old 2-lane track that we take up to Penticton, and then from Penticton, basically, it's 4 lanes all the way to Kelowna. And we come back down to Cleedon, we come around here to Yellow Lake, we drop down, and we come to Kelowna, Coston, we drop down, we cross over Richter Pass into Osoyoos. That's Highway 97. Now, right now, coming into this time of year, we're in the late spring, we're looking at tourists. The road traffic is just about breathing summer work right now. If you go into downtown Oliver, downtown Osoyoos, it's bumper to bumper to bumper. But it's going to change. Now, this is where I have to take you to the feasibility study. Take a guess at how many people they think they are going to bring here. And this is on page 10 of the feasibility study. Just write it down or just pick a number and think about it. They want to bring 300,000 people per year to the Okanagan Valley. Effectively, those 300,000 people will arrive in the Okanagan between spring and fall. That gives you 50,000 people per month, or 1,700 people per week coming to the Okanagan. So if you have 1,700 people coming per week, that means, or pardon me, not per week, per day, that means you're going to have approximately 1,000 more motor vehicles moving up and down the valley. So we are going to add 1,000 people to Highway 97 going up the valley. And now you've got to remember, on here we have farmers, we have farm laborers, we have grandma and grandpa going up to Penticton because somebody needs an MRI or they're going to Walmart to get their drugs. All the normal people, we've got the truck traffic. So there's a lot of people on here already going this way, coming around like this, coming down through Karamias, Coston, up over the hump into Osoyoos. So now add another 1,000 cars a day there. Can you imagine what the town of Osoyoos would look like, and the town of Oliver, and the town of OK Falls, where the highway is the main street. But I have made an error in my mathematics here. We're not talking 1,700 people per day or 1,000 as predicted, because we have to add into the equation, these people, I'm going to surmise, are going to come here for, I say, 3 days. They're going to stay in this area for 3 days. So now, instead of having 1,700 people, we've got 4,500 people to 5,000 people, and we've got 3,000 vehicles in this area brought in. That's 3,000 vehicles per day on Highway 97 going north or south on this road. Can you imagine what that's like? This is on the table. Now, the next question, if you have that many people, you think about how many traffic accidents. Oh yes, and I have to throw one other thing in here to make it really interesting. I'm going to throw 1,000 bicyclists a day coming out of Penticton, because they're running bike tours down the Okanagan, down to Osoyoos, up over Richter Pass, up the Smilkameen, into Costin Karamias, back around the loop through Olalla, past Yellow Lake. I'm going to throw them in there. Do you realize how many accidents are going to happen? Because the traffic is going to be bumper to bumper to bumper. We're now talking about 3,000 cars and 5,000 people per day floating around, because we got some leaving, we got some going. So the next question is, what happens if there's an accident? Well, there is going to be accidents. I'm going to say there's 20 accidents a day, from very, very minor to very, very serious. With this type of traffic flow, what about an emergency response? Are they talking about emergency response? How is an ambulance attendant going to get from Osoyoos halfway to Oliver in the Orchards area or the Vineyard area, because it's bumper to bumper traffic? Or vice versa, coming down from Oliver going north up this. Do we have to get a fleet of helicopters to pick up people at accident scenes? Now we've got the people, what do we do with them? Osoyoos has a medical clinic. Oliver has a hospital. You take people in there, they stabilize you, they treat you if you are relatively minor. If not, they transfer you to Penticton. Our medical services, our emergency responses are going to be overloaded. This is a disaster in the making. And the first question that would be asked is, well, we can improve the highway. Well, I anticipate to improve the highway from 2 lanes to 4 lanes is going to take between $500 million and $1 billion to purchase the property on either side. And it's going to take another $1 billion to rebuild the road, because they don't just have to rebuild the road, they have to move every piece of power pole, every telus pole, everything has to be re-put down. Everything has to be redone. So we have a nightmare here on the road, okay? Where are these people going to stay? Where are they going to be fed? It is going to be a zoo. It's going to be a disaster. And for you, the local residents that are probably watching this, you're going to be stuck right here in the middle of this. You're going to be north, south. You're going to have to go down in the United States of America to have a rest, because you can't go east, because you're going to be in a park, no-go zone, other than for organized people, or if it's negotiated the way the Silex Nation would like, they will have access to this. The biological people, your biologists and ecologists, they'll have access. But you, the average citizen, will not be going there, unfortunately. This is all on the table. Nobody's talking about it. They talk about transparency, but we don't hear anything. So this is what we're discussing here on this park. I'm doing this because the average person needs to know this. We live here. We need to be brought into this equation too. We live here. And what they're projecting, 300,000 people, we won't even recognize the Okanagan. But they're going to be crammed in this little tiny little strip from Penticton to the border that's approximately 3 kilometers wide. I don't see the reasoning. It's just mind-boggling. Plus, you go back into the principal area, the Cobo Ridge, I call it. 50% or better of the property is fee simple. It's owned by people. Where is this going? There does not seem to be any substance to what's happening, but they're not telling us. All the negotiations are going on behind closed doors. I'm winding down this video. We are going to have a trailer on the bottom of this video where Norm Eadie's email address will be, my email address will be. All you have to do is say, I would like the 4 documents from this video, and we will send them to you so that you can compare everything that I have said on this video with those documents. We are asking you to wake up, people. If this hits a nerve, this is on the table. They're not telling us. Their idea of clarity is opaque. There is no happening here. There's nothing happening. We're not seeing it. So be proactive. If you want to live here in the Okanagan in a semblance of what we have and continue that to the future, the park will destroy all future lifestyle that way. Because all you're going to be left with is a thin ribbon of line down the middle, no going to the east, no going to the west without permission from Parks Canada and their other partners. Thank you very much. Brian Amos, have a great day.